Welcome to Shiksha Disha. Today we are going to cover the chapter number 4. Earlier we have covered chapter number 1, 2, 3. So in these chapters we learn about the hunter-gatherers and where all the different crops started growing, and the different areas such as Vindhyas, Bhimbetka caves, Catalhuyuk, which was a Neolithic site, Yunsgi and Kurnool. So these were the different parts, and we have also divided the time periods in Paleolithic, then Mesolithic, and then Neolithic. And in this chapter, we are going to get more information, or we will read about the Harappan Valley civilization. So we have already made some references about the Harappa, that how Harappa came into the existence and what was the Harappa location, what was the Harappa's location, and how this civilization developed over the period. Right. So today we will look into this uh, particular civilization. So the story of Harappa. Harappa in present day is in Pakistan, and how it got discovered about 80 years ago. Archaeologists found the site and realized that this was one of the oldest city in the subcontinent, as this was the first city to be discovered. All other cities from where similar buildings were found were described as Harappa. So understand this thing, that sometimes you will read into the books that they have referred it as Harappa Valley civilization, sometimes Sindhu Valley civilization. So these Indus Valley civilization has also been called. So different name has been called, but mostly in standard books you will see that Harappa Valley civilization has been referred. Why? Because first city which was excavated was named as Harappa, right? So that is why this civilization is known as Harappa Valley civilization. Got it? So this was the part of the name. So let us understand the different aspects of this civilization. This city developed about 4700 years ago. If you remember in the chapter 1, where it was providing us about the timelines, how 8000 years ago what happened, then 4700 years ago what kind of civilization developed. So the civilizations which it was referring at that time, that was Harappa Valley civilization. Then later on it also referred that the what type of development happened 2500 years ago. So new kingdoms got evolved, and Magadhan was the important kingdom, right? So keep these things in mind, and keep on revising things, because these are the important facts, and it will give you a very good base to understand the uh, further development. Or if you will move on to the complex books or the advanced books, then it will help you and will make things very easy for you to crack the examination. So let us move ahead and understand the next part of this civilization, that what was the specialized uh, thing about this civilization, why it is so important. So many of these cities were divided into two parts. So basically, if you have read into earlier classes, if you have been a student of like CBSE or other uh, state boards, then you must have read about the Harappa. If not, that is absolutely fine. So what important information being provided is that it was divided into two parts. The parts to the west was smaller and higher. So understand it that it was built into two parts. One was at the higher level and another was at the lower level. So the west portion was the at the higher level, and the east part which was on the lower side. Okay, so what was the utility and why it was developed, or it was made in such manner? Let us understand what archaeologists think about it, and what is their opinion about this. So let us understand that as well. The archaeologists describe this as the citadel. So if you will refer to the citadel, that what was the citadel, that the part which was into the western side of the uh, Harappa was known as citadel, right? So that was on the upper portion, and lower side were other people must have lived on the lower side, where the general people must have lived. Okay, So very often walls of baked bricks were built around the each part. So three things you need to remember. First, cities were divided into two parts, one into the west and another was in east. Eastern part lower, western part higher. Western part also known as citadel, and in the lower part, general people used to live, where like different artisans, other people who used to do daily work. We don't know what type of work they used to do and what type of civilizations or different type of work has been divided among them. So but still we have basic understanding that this kind of dividation was there, right? And third thing was that the walls was of backed bricks. So they understood that the importance of the brick and the back, why the backed bricks were important. Okay, so they in the 4700 years ago they had this understanding that they need to develop the strong walls. Probably they wanted to protect it from the natural disasters or from the outside attacks. So these kind of things may be there, right? Archaeologists, if you what I am referring now is on the right hand side, which I have already marked in yellow color. So the important thing is that the archaeologists have found a set of unique objects in almost all these cities. The red pottery, painted with design in black, stone weights, seals, special beads, copper tools, and parallel side long stone blades. So these are the important things or artifacts which have been archaeologists have found in these cities. So keep this in mind that what type of pottery has been found, red and black, right? And what type of different thing like seals were there. So and stones were there, stone weights were there. So they understood that the measurement units were there according to their understanding, right? And copper tools were also been found, so they must have used it for different purposes, probably for agriculture purposes or for doing different tasks. Okay, let us understand different things as well. The brick were laid in the interlocking pattern. Interlocking pattern, one brick has been kept like this, then another kept like this. So when the bricks are kept in such a manner, it provides a very strong, uh, a solid base to the wall as well. So it is not easy to break such kind of walls. That is why, and they understood the importance of strength, that why strength is important, right? So they wanted to protect their cities, their people. So they, it was kind of a precursor to the forts, right? So the modern day forts which developed into the in somewhere around 11, 12, and later on we have seen the 16th centuries as well. So look at the foundation where the basic mindset being developed somewhere around 4700 years ago. They understood the importance of these protections or the walls. Understood, right? Let us move ahead. In some cities, special buildings were constructed on the citadel. For example, in Mohenjo-daro, a very special tank which archaeologists called as Great Bath was built in the area. So now understand that the in Mohenjo-daro, a very important building have been found where a tank has been constructed. So they call it as, who call it as, archaeologists call it as great bath, because it was similar to the swimming pool today in if we contemporary word, if it today in today's scenario if we talk about, then it was similar to the swimming pool, right? So what was the utility? Let us understand that as well. There was steps leading down to it from the two sides, while there were rooms on all sides. So like there was a pool, and there were from two sides there were steps leading to the pool, right? And surrounding that pool there were rooms, probably changing rooms, and maybe rooms for worshipping, or we don't know exactly that why these rooms were built. But we understand that they had basic understanding of cleanliness and worshipping of something, or maybe ritual bathing. So these kind of things were there. Perhaps the important people took a dip in this tank on the special occasion. So we cannot certainly say that why exactly these things were there, but what guess we can make, the smarter guess would be like that, uh, it might have been for the important people, for the ritual purposes, or for the special occasions, right? We cannot certainly say about what was the purpose, right? So this is an important thing. So important site is Mohenjo-daro. Why it was important? And because we have already found a great bath. Okay, so this particular location, this artifact or this particular thing becomes really important fact for our examination. It may be a potential question which can be asked in future examinations, so keep this in mind. We will also look at the different locations of the Harappa civilizations just a couple of minutes. So Kalibangan and the Lothal had fire altars. So now it is talking about the different sites of the Harappa Valley civilization, like Kalibangan and Lothal. So where what have been found? Fire altars. So keep this in mind. The two locations where it is referring, Kalibangan and Lothal. What have been found? Fire altars have been found. What is fire altar? Fire altars, like in today's day, these are similar to uh, the kunds which we refer, where we in whenever we gather in any ritual or in worshipping, while worshipping we put all the things into the fire, so those kunds are referred as fire altars, right? So where the sacrifices, it is also referring that, it is also trying to explain that what are the fire altars where the sacrifices may have been performed, right? So let us look at the few locations which has been provided here. So here, so we have referred the Lothal. So here is Lothal. If you will pay attention, then Lothal is in Gujarat, right? And here is Dholavira. We will see it in more detail about the Dholavira. Here is Mohenjo-daro. Great bath have been found here. And Kalibangan is here. If you look at the Kalibangan, then Kalibangan is in Rajasthan. Then Rakhigadi, it is Rakhigadi is in Haryana. Then here is Harappa. Harappa, as we have already seen, that Harappa is in current day Pakistan, right? Then here is Ganveriwala. So Jamhudaro, and here is Sotkako. So these are the important location. And here is Surkotra. So keep this in your mind. Where is Lothal, Surkotra, Dholavira, Jamhudaro, Satkoha, Mohenjo-daro, Ganveriwala, Kalibangan, Rakhigadi, Harappa. So keep this in your mind. What are the location and where these cities are present in today reference. Okay, let us move ahead. So pay close attention to this. So this was the great path. Look at this. So here are the steps. Here is this, like here are the steps, and these are the rooms which have been made. Okay, so these were the rooms, probably changing rooms. So where it was built, it was built on the western part on citadel, right? So let us look apart from this. Now it is talking about the houses, what type of houses were there, and the drains, and how were the streets. So let us do the simple reading, then we will try to understand if there will be any complexity. Houses were either one or two stories. So they also mastered the art of making houses. So they were not only building one story houses, but they also made two stories high, right? So understand that they understood the extent, that what type of strength they need to keep for the first floor, and so that they can make the another room on that as well, on the top as well. So it must the base must be able to hold the weight of the second building as well. So this kind of solid buildings they were able to made And if you will visit Dholavira and these places, so you will also see in today's reference as well, these some of the artifacts are still there, so you would be able to understand the importance of these things, right? With the rooms built around the courtyard, most houses had a separate bathing area and some had wells to supply water, which is a basic thing in the Harappa, because separate bathing areas having separate wells for to supply water. So it will like they were very neat and clean about these things, right? Many of these cities had covered drains, so now it is referring to the what type of hygienes uh, they used to take these steps in terms of keeping the good hygiene, right? Very often the drains in house were connected to the house on the street, so understand that in that era they also understood. Today if we'll see that today we have Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and that era they already understood the importance of keeping their environment neat, tidy, and clean, right? So that is what type of different arrangement they did. So this is what it has been referring into this paragraph. The drains in the house were connected to those on the street, and a smaller drain led to the bigger ones. The smaller were connected to the bigger ones, and the drains were covered. So there was no open pits, no open drainage, because they were also aware that if they will keep it open, so different pathogens or maybe mosquitoes or different diseases may occur due to that, or uh, so they were aware of about their, they were also very health conscious, if in short we can say. The inspection halls were provided at intervals so that they can clean on regular basis, so understand that what type of understanding they developed about the hygiene and the purpose of keeping their environment clean. All three, what all three? The houses, drains, and street were probably planned and built at the same time. So whenever you get any question about that, what type of thing we can do in the urban areas in today's scenario, then keep this in your mind. You can always refer to the Harappa Valley civilization, that what type of arrangement they have made. They in that era they understood the importance of hygiene, and they understood that what type of cities they need to develop, so they developed the modern cities, right? Why? Because houses, drains, and street, they understood they need to keep clean, so they were proper arrangement of keeping them clean. They were connected, they were covered, right? So you can use this reference. Let us move ahead. What was the life in the city in that time? If we talk about the Harappan cities, those were very busy place. Why? It will also provide us the evidences that why uh, those cities were very much busy. There were people who planned the construction of special buildings, which we have already seen, such as the Great Bath, and the drainage patterns, and the walls, strong walls, and the houses, not only single buildings but the two stories houses. There were probably the rurals. Maybe there must have been any kind of a ruler who used to rule the city. It is likely that the ruler sent people to distant lands to get metal, precious stones, and other things that they wanted. So if Harappa Valley civilization was ruled by any king or any ruler. We exactly don't know, but the ruler might have sent the people of the city to the distant places to get the different. It is not always necessary that in that specific area they must be getting all these things like metal and precious stone, but they were doing the business, and they were also making the artifacts and important things. If further we will understand that what type of things they were making out of these precious stones, and what was the utility of the metal, so they must have brought it from far distant places, right? For that they have must have gone to the different places, and they must have been instructed by a ruler, right? So these were described like the people who knew how to write. So who were the scribes? So people who used to write, and who were able to understand as well. Somebody who would understand, then only they would be able to write any script. So they were the scribes, so who had to prepare the seals, because many seals have been found. On that seals different type of images have been inscribed, and perhaps wrote on the material that they have not survived. Though some seals of somewhere around more than 3000 plus seals have been survived, but the seals which were not survived must have been made of different type of material. Over the time, they either got lost or stolen, or some kind of thing happened to them. That is why, but still there are sufficient amount of mm, seals are available, and the artifacts are available, right? There were men and women craft person. Now it is telling us that what all type of people who were living there. So these are all the probable things, we certainly cannot say, but still definitely we can say that yes, there were people. And what type of people? There were men, women, craftsmen, because we have already seen the beads, right? And seal making as well, making all kind of things either in their own home or in special workshops. So maybe there were these special workshops where they were preparing the beads or special type of tools or the toys. So these type of things were happening. Look at the right hand side here. You will see a well. Look at here, and here you will see the drainage. Look at this. So these are the drainage pattern, and look at the wall. So look at the width, very strong wall, right? Look at the arrangement of the bricks. Big bricks have been used. Look at the well, and so they used to fetch the water from these wells, right? And if we come to the bottom, look at the left hand side, you will see a seal. Look at here, something has been written here, and something has been marked here as well on the seal, and these are the small toys. So this is what has been provided as the information here. Harappan seal and the sign on the top of the seal are the part of the script. So we have not been able to decipher as of now, but this was some kind of the language they must have used, right? So as of now, this has not been deciphered. So this is the earliest form of writing known in the subcontinent. Scholars have been tried to read these signs, but still do not know exactly what they mean. So this is what we were referring, that still it has not been deciphered. So yet people are trying, like archaeologists and the different scholars are trying to understand that what exactly was the meaning of these symbols. New crafts in the city. So most of the things have been found by the archaeologists are made of stone, shells and metal, including copper, bronze, gold, and silver. So understand the chronology, that they were already aware about the metals. What type of metal? Not only the simple metal, but the precious metals such as gold and silver were also were known to them, right? So they have also used them. Copper and bronze were used to make tools. Now it is referring to the utility. What type of utility of those metals? So they used the copper and bronze to make tools, weapon, ornaments, and vessels. Right? Gold and silver were used to make the ornament and vessels. And today we also see that being an Indian, we are always tempted, or we remain crazy about the gold and the things which have been made by gold. So in that era as well, gold had its importance. So look at the left hand side, which I have marked it in the yellow. The These are the stone weights. Uh, these are the stone weights. So look at the image, like they were probably square shaped, and different type of weights were there, smaller, bigger ones. And here on the here you will see these were the beads, so made using. So These were for the purpose of the aesthetics, probably worn by women, men, or kids probably, and these were the tools. And look here. So we have already known about the beads, stone blades. So these were the stone blades at the right hand side. The Harappan also made the seals out of stone. So stitite stones were used, and the other like terracotta seals. Terracotta has also been used to prepare the seals, right? So these are the generally rectangular. Not all were rectangular, but generally. So pay the attention on the terms as well. What is it referring? Is it rigid about the rectangular, like all the seals were rectangular? No, not all. Pay attention on the questions whenever if any question has been asked, like all the seals were rectangular. No, not all seals were rectangular. Some seals were square, some seals were round, right? So these were, they were in different size and shapes. Okay, so keep this in mind. They also made pots with beautiful black designs, and look at this here, this image or statue, right? So this was the statue of the bread priest, probably a embroidered cloth man, a stone statue of an important man, found from which location? Here the location is important. I have already marked, underlined it. So it was found where? Mohenjo-daro. So we have already seen that one important thing also been found at Mohenjo-daro, that was our Great Bath. And second thing which NCERT is referring here is this important person, probably a priest or maybe a ruler, we don't know exactly. So the, so he has wore some kind of embroidered garments. So look at the floral design on his shawl, right? So the clothing, now it is referring to the clothing, that the cotton was probably grown at Mehergarh from about 7,000 years ago. So this is an important fact. Do not forget, keep this in your mind, note it down somewhere. So whenever you are revising, it becomes really important for you and you will not forget whenever any question will be asked. Uh, so it was like somewhere around 7,000 years ago, cotton was grown at Mehergarh. We have earlier in chapters, we have already seen Mehergarh, right? Actual pieces of the clothes were found attached to a lid of a silver vase. So original piece of a cloth have also been found and was attached to a lid of a silver vase. And some copper object have also been found where? At Mohenjo-daro. Archaeologists have also found spindle whorls and made of the spindle whorls it is referring was made of terracotta and faience. So we will look at the faience because it has beautifully described of the faience, that what was the faience and how it was made. So these were used to spin threads. So it was referring to the utility of spin whorls. So what was the utility? So it was used to spin the thread, and using the thread they were able to uh, make the clothes of cotton clothes, right? So we have already seen the bearded man wearing some floral design shawl. So now let us look at the faience, maybe a potential question. So faience basically that are found naturally. Faience is a material that is artificially produced. Now what it is referring, that what was naturally available? The stones and shells were naturally available. However, faience was artificially produced. So they were aware about amalgamating two things and making third thing out of those. Since we have already seen that copper tools and bronze tools have also been found, right? So they used to understand the metallurgy part as well, and they were also the expert that if they will mix two things, then how they would be able to produce the third thing. So keep this in mind, that faience is not a naturally occurring substance, but they have artificially produced it. How? A gum was used to shape the sand or powdered quartz into an object. What was used? Quartz. And the object was then glazed, resulting in a shiny. Look at the this on the right hand side, this particular shape. It is, if you look at it closely, then it is carrying a special sign, right? Little bit bluish, right? And why that was? Because the object was then glazed, because of the glaze they used, that is why it was all shiny and glossy. The colors of the glass were usually blue or sea green, right? Coins were used to make the beads, bangles, earrings, and tiny vessels. So keep this in your mind that what was the utility of fines. Fines was not a naturally occurring substance but a artificially produced things. Keep this with you as a note. A specialist is a person who is trained to do only one kind of work, for example, cutting stone or polishing beads or carving seals. So probably there were different type of people who used to live in Harappa. So it is referring to them. Then who were the specialists of for doing what type of work. So the work must have been divided among them. So we do not know the whether only men were specialist or the women were specialist, because all these is just an assumption on the understanding of the site. But we cannot certainly say, right? Because we do not have those evidences that these work were assigned to women and these work were assigned to the men only. Perhaps some women and men may have been a specialist. Both could be the specialist. So now understand about the raw materials from different part, all what type of different part of the world Harappan must have got their raw materials. So let us understand that as well. Cotton produced by farmers is a raw material that may be produced to make cloth. If we will see and pay attention that Harappa was in the western part, and some of the locations have also been found in Gujarat. So in today's geography, when you will read, you will understand that the black soil has is dominant in the western part, and it is really good for the cultivation of cotton. So understand this, that they already Harappan Valley civilization people already know about this, that black soil and the what type of crop could be easily grown in their part. So they understood about the cotton, and they used the cotton to make the clothes as well, right? While some raw, so this was the raw material for them. Cotton was the raw material for them, this which was locally available to them. While some of the raw materials that the Harappan used were available locally, and many items such as copper, tin, gold, silver, and precious stone have to be brought from far distance places. So it will also provide us the location from where they have brought these things. What things? Tin, gold, and silver, and other precious stones. The Harappan probably got the copper from present day Rajasthan. So this becomes really important, that from where did they receive the copper? They received the copper from Rajasthan, right? Present day Rajasthan, or even Oman. Now look other materials. Oman in West Asia. Tin was mixed with the copper to produce bronze, which we have already understood, right? So if this question you see that how bronze is produced, or how bronze was made, then they already understood that copper is mixed with tin, produce the bronze. And which might have been which what tin might have been brought from the present day Afghanistan and Iran, and gold could have been also brought from the present day Karnataka. So we have already understood that in Karnataka there are the gold mines, right? Kolar goldfield, so which is very popular for the gold mines, and the precious stones from the present day Gujarat, Iran, and Afghanistan. So the locations which it has referred, make note of it. What different raw materials were procured from different part of not only India, from the different part of the different world, right? So this is an important thing to understand. Now let us understand. So look at here. So if you let me just show you that. Look at this thing. Uh, this is a small toy, but if you'll pay attention, then the wheel, they were aware about the wheel, so they have made the wheels, right? So you will not see the spokes, but rather you will see a solid wheel. Let us move ahead. food or for the people in cities. While many people lived in the cities, other living in the countryside grew crops, reared animals. We have already understand not only this, but the hunter gatherers also understood. So the later in the later development, so Harappans were very advanced to that, so they must have understood all these things in very advanced way. So these farmers and hunters supplies food to craft persons, scribes and rulers in city. So we know from the remains of plants that the Harappan grew what type of things they grew, which becomes really important. Harappan grew wheat, barley, pulses, peas, rice, sesame, then the linseed and the mustard. So these are the important thing which they grow at that time. A new tool like plow was used to dig the earth for turning the soil and planting seeds. So plow was an important tool. Look at here. This was a toy plow, but they understood that what was the utility of this tool, right? The Harappan reared the cattle, sheep, goat, and buffalo. The water and pasture were available around settlement. So definitely, we have seen that the earlier civilizations always developed near about the banks of any river. So the Harappan was developed or the settled near to the Indus River, right? So definitely, it must have been the all green and lushy places. That is why the people settled, and they must have got the sufficient amount of water and the pasture as well. So they were able to rear these cattle, sheep, goat, and buffalo. They also collected fruits. Like what type of fruits they collected? They collected bear, caught fish, and hunted the wild animal like antelope. A closer look to Harappan towns in Gujarat. So now, which we have already seen the earlier map, the Dholavira. Now understand Dholavira because most of the times this site remains in the news, right? Because it is really important site. The city of Dholavira was located in Khadirbet. Pay attention that it is located in Khadirbet, also spelled as Bet. In the run of Kutch, location becomes very important. Geography becomes really important to understand because these days UPSC or other examinations they have moved towards asking the question which are more related to the geography based historical events or historical places which are related to geography, right? So they ask the geography by using the historical events or historical places, right? So it was found in the run of Kutch where there was fresh water and fertile soil. So pay attention, fresh water, fertile soil in the run of Kutch, Kadirbet. What was this location? The location was Dholavira. So Dholavira, now pay attention because we have already seen that the most of the locations of the sites were divided into two. Why Dholavira is important? Dholavira was divided into three parts, and each part was surrounded by with massive stone walls and the entrance through gateway. There were gateways and massive stone walls, and it was divided into three parts, right? So there were also large open areas in the settlement where public ceremonies could be held, and other finds include the large letter of Harappan scripts that was carved out of white stone and perhaps inlaid in the wood. So what it is referring in this green paragraph, let me just make you understand. Just in this paragraph, what is it trying to tell? That on the wood, on the wood, there was inscribed something we don't know, and that was in Harappan language, right? So probably a welcome signboard, we don't know, but this was very special site because on only on this site this type of signboard has been found where something was written and a signboard was there on the entrance of the city, right? So this is what it is trying to tell us. The city, now it is referring to the city of Lothar. We have already seen in the map, so you can just go ahead and see the map as well. Where is the Lothar? The city of Lothal stood beside the tributary of Sabarmati. Important, again, important fact. Where is Lothal? tributary of Sabarmati in Gujarat, close to the Gulf of Khambat. Then again, Gulf of Khambat. It was situated near the area where the raw materials such as semi-precious stones were easily available. So always it depends on the availability and utility of the place as well. This was an important center for making objects out of stone, shell and metal. There was also a storehouse in the city. So now, why the storehouse in the city? Many of seals and ceilings were found in this storehouse, right? And the Lothal, why Lothal was also important, look at here. So there was a dockyard, so probably ships used to come here, and it must have been a very important sites in terms of the business, or they used to do different type of trades with the different parts of the world. And since we already know that Gulf of Khambat and that part of the Gujarat region is open to the Arabian Sea, so they must be having some type of relation to the people of the Arabian Sea, or the people of the West Asia, right? So we will understand that as well. A dockyard at Lothal, this huge tank may have been a dockyard where the boats, ships came from the sea through the river channel. Goods were probably loaded and unloaded because it was a very important site in terms of trade and business, right? So Lothal becomes important, Dholavira becomes important. Why these were important? Keep this in mind. Now understand the seals and ceilings. What was like, why they used seals and how they were used, what type of material was used. Seals may have been used to stamp bags. Now understand the utility which we were talking about. So now it will answer all our questions we have now just asked. So seals may have been used to stamp bags or packets containing goods that were sent from one place to another place. After a bag was closed or tied, a layer of wet clay was applied on the knot and the seal was pressed on it. The impression of the seal is known as a sealing. So seal maybe works as a symbol, or the like this particular, today we see the different packages which we receive from the different e-commerce sites. We see that those things are packed, right? We see the seal in terms of labeling and we just open it. So probably at that time, so they were so advanced that they understood the importance of keeping things closed, privacy. And apart from that, they also kept it from stealing. If you see the seal is open, then please return. Today also we see these kind of things on our packages. So understand their understanding that in that era. So this was the purpose of the seal, to protect their trade with the different part of the world, to provide them this assurance that whatever we are sending is protected using these seals. So this was the utility, right? And what there are the different theories which were postulated about the mysterious end of the society, that why the Harappan civilizations, which was flourishing and was so advanced in terms of everything, just perished. So different archaeologists or different theorists have provided different theories. So let us understand. Around 3900 years ago, we find the beginning of a major change. What type of change? People stopped living in the many cities which were flourishing, which were the center of the trades and the development. Now the people have stopped living. We don't know why, right? So the writing, seals, and the weights were no longer used. Understand that what type of developments were happening, right? The raw materials brought from the long distances became rare. In Mohenjo-daro, we found that the garbage piled up on the street, the drainage system broke down, and the new, less impressive houses were built even over the street. So understand that earlier they were keeping the city very neat, tidy, and clean, and now look at the end, when the civilizations, this particular civilization was on the brink of collapsing. They started keeping less care about their city cleanliness, and the garbage were there, and the construction was not so good. So we don't know why these things were happening. So these are still in just a theory, right? But this was happened somewhere around 3900 years ago. This is important. So the sites in the Sindh and the West Punjab, present day Pakistan, were abandoned. The cities were abandoned because people don't want to live in that area. Don't know why. While many people moved to the newer area, smaller settlement to the east and the south, that like the archaeologists were able to found that if this happened, then what happened to the next in the other parts of the world, whether they were able to move, if any disaster happened there, then whether they were able to move, that yes, smaller settles have been found, but nothing concrete can be said about that. So new cities emerged about 1400 years later. So like after 3900 years, and then later 1400 years later, new cities were emerging, right? And apart from this, along with this, that what development were happening, so let us understand that as well. Around 5000 years ago, kings ruled over the Egypt. So just open the map, look where is the Egypt. Okay, so these king sent armies to distant landed to get similar stories, that like the people used to go to the different places as the Harappan people moved. So the similar to the Egyptian people also moved to the different and distant lands to get the gold, silver, ivory, timber, precious stones. They also built huge tombs known as pyramids. So look at the pyramid which have been shown here, and Giza and all were the pyramids. We also see these things in the movies as well. So these are gigantic and huge. So so these were the tombs basically. So when they died, who died? The king or the ruler died. The bodies of these kings were preserved and buried in these pyramids. So basically, these were the tombs where the kings or the special people were kept after being dead. Right? So these were carefully preserved bodies, and the bodies are known as mummies, right? A large number of objects were also buried with them, such as gold or some food, because in that time this was the understanding that the person who dies will also travel to the another world, and they probably need to use these kind of things, right? Though scientific understanding was not developed, so we also see that thing in the Egypt as well, that they were also following such kind of things. So this was all about the chapter number 4. So we have seen the different development about the, not only about the Harappa Valley civilizations, but also that how it collapsed and what the development happened to the different part of the world. So I would suggest you to keep revising, make the notes. I have already marked the important facts. You just need to read only these facts. You do not need to mug up any other thing apart from this. Make notes and revise 2 or 3 or 4 times and make your own notes according to your understanding. Okay, and I will see you into the next chapter, chapter number 5. Till then, see you. Have a good day.